Hi, my name is Tiger Warford, and this is DingoTalk.
You wanna know by now. You wanna know by now. You wanna know by now. You wanna know. You wanna know. You wanna.
What's going on, chuckleheads? I am Carlo Guadagnino. This is DingoTalk. My guest this week is Tiger Warford. Tiger, thank you for taking the time. I mean, we've been trying to go back and forth. You've been dealing with some personal things and with the coaching and everything. It's great to have you on the show.
Absolutely. I appreciate it, man. I really appreciate it. It's been some time, and thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So before we start, I'm going to do something that we don't normally do. I'm going to let you guys know how Tiger and I know each other, and let you know that this episode is dedicated to Tiger's recently passed father, my former AAU coach, probably one of the greatest men I've ever met, Reggie Warford. So we played AAU together back 06, 07, show our age.
And that sounds like we're real old, man. It sounds like we're getting old.
You aren't getting old yet. I crossed the 30 threshold. I'm old. I don't get to argue that case anymore. But so we're here to talk about you. So senior year of high school, you end up down in Kentucky, correct?
Absolutely. So I was in Kentucky playing basketball at a small country town, and we had a really good team. In 3 years, we went to state. We lost in the championship twice, and my father led us in coaching for that, and he was a tremendous person to a lot of people for what he did with. And so I appreciate that. We have such a great bond just from the short time we played AAU together. And so I was out there in my senior year. He started to get some health problems. I went to Murray State University my freshman year and played basketball out there with some really great players, and transferred to junior college in Maryland my sophomore year.
Hold on. I gotta stop you there. You're getting too ahead of me. We're not gonna get the whole 30 minutes if you tell it all in 5. So the Murray State, how do you end up and why Murray State?
So actually, it was really close to where it's not. It was an hour and a half from where I was going to high school in Muhlenberg County, and it was a good good step. And now I walked on, and I had to earn my place in there. And a lot of players who we didn't get that game that we wanted to at the end of our senior year, so we lost to go to state in the championship. And Kentucky's a little bit different. Only 16 teams in all of Kentucky go. So there's no AA, AAA, quad A. A school with 100 kids or 10,000 kids could play each other really anytime.
Wow.
So it's a big deal for that. So we lost in the championship every year. 2 years of my last years there, my junior, senior year, to go literally by last second shots. But that hurt in the exposure. That was supposed to be a big leading, and we had a lot of momentum after my sophomore year where we did go to state, and we, one of 16 teams. We had a lot of momentum. We got hurt in those last 2, and so my recruiting wasn't, it wasn't what I had some offers here and there, but it wasn't what I was looking for. And Coach Prom was at Murray, and I appreciate him giving me the opportunity and really, accepting me in there. I played with some great players, got to get a lot of experience. Isaiah Kanan, playing the NBA, was doing really well. Ed Daniels, Stacy Wilson, all guys who are phenomenal players that I really just appreciate getting to see. And so my freshman year was a big learning year because there was a huge difference.
And then, so after your freshman year, why the choice to leave and go to a junior college for a year?
So I didn't know that Coach Prom was going to be leaving after that year, because that was, I had heard my father was getting a little bit worse than what they could handle in Kentucky. And so he was getting ready to move back to Pittsburgh because he had a set of doctors who knew exactly what he had throughout his life. And the condition is hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. It's like having a callus on your heart. And he had it throughout his life. He had some heart problems, but as serious as they were, they didn't know to the extent of how bad they could be. And he kind of, really fought his way to being able to play through college, and it ended up catching up with him. It's something that he never smoked, never drank, never had any. He was just a healthy guy, and it was just unfortunate. It was a really unfortunate thing that happened.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what kind of drove me from Murray to look elsewhere. I was 11 hours away at Murray from where my house is in Pittsburgh, and the college I went to, Howard Community College in Maryland, I played under Coach Schmelkinson. Loved him, unbelievable guy, and he really helped me take my game out to a great level, and got a better opportunity to taking that year being a walk-on and trying to earn my space. Mm-hmm. I felt I needed more active time, and I made that move, and I found Maryland, which was only about 4.5 hours from Pittsburgh, so I could make an easy 4-hour drive on a weekend. And that's what I basically was doing most of my sophomore year of college. So that's what kind of drove me over to Maryland.
So you go from Maryland and you end up making your way over to Youngstown, where you finish out the last 2 years, correct?
Yes, sir. Coach Slocum, great guy.
And how do you how does that come about? Now, is that part the exposure from the JUCO and getting more playing time, or was that another, I want to go back in, get playing time, and I'm going to go here to do it?
So that was a good combination. I actually, and this is where my sophomore year was a tough year because of all those things happening. We were doing really well for our JUCO, and I was doing really well. I actually got a concussion and I broke my nose, and I was out for about 2 months where I wasn't be able to go to class, and that had hurt me. I came back in on the way into that. I was receiving a lot of look and a lot of, exposure from being there. And it was exactly the avenue I needed. That concussion took me out right around December. I came back in probably around end of January. And that being my fourth concussion, it took me a minute to kind of, the test, it all really means something, and it comes back around to it. Mm-hmm. But I had an opportunity to go to Robert Morris and play for Coach O'Toole, and phenomenal guy. And I was really looking at going there initially, and that's where I was basically committed to. He was going to give me my shot. I'd still have 3 years to go to the school since I went to a JUCO, and I redshirted a year, so I had 3 years less of eligibility. And since I had that concussion, it from a step forward took me another step back, and I had to earn my way in. So I walk on to another school to try to get the same opportunity, which, it's something you can discuss with coaches. It's a real thing, and they understand your drive. So you them giving you that year to prove yourself. I really recommend that for a lot of players trying to get, talk to a coach, even if you're not sure, mm-hmm. Give it a shot and try out. You can walk on, and then guys like Jared Polson got some really good minutes for Kentucky. And, he ended up playing some meaningful minutes throughout his years. So
let me ask you this. As you go through, you're there's a lot of adversity here in those first 2 years of, there's injuries, there's I'm not getting, maybe not exposure, the initial looks, mental health side of that. What are you battling with that while you're trying to, because I can't imagine that some of that was easy, right?
No, man, it was rough, and my head was in a million places. I had a lot of people that helped me through it, but I truly was trying to keep it tough, because I wanted to be, a rock for what I know my dad did and all the things, but it was unbelievably tough. And I really started, when my college career ended, it really affected me even more. So if you ask that question at the end of this whole story here, that was a huge, monumental difference. And I would really recommend talking to people, whoever needs, getting yourself taken care of, because there's little things that could help you tremendously get your head on track, especially post athleticism, post athletic career. Because I was so used to having such a regimen and so used to so many things. My head was a million other places when you took the main stimuli of my life away.
Well, so how did one, why did you end up choosing Youngstown? And two, what did you end up majoring at while you were there?
So I chose, like I said, initially was looking at Robert Morris. They only had a major of biology. They didn't have the major I was looking at, because I started looking past college. I was like, I may not, be able to be the player I wanted to be, but it's taken me, and everything I've done, it's because of basketball. So I look at it and I say, what do I really want to do with my life? And I love exercise. I love science, physics, and anatomy. And so I find that Youngstown is only an hour, 15 minutes from Pittsburgh in my house. And I look over there and they have an exercise kinesiology major. So I talked to Coach Slocum, and he gives me that opportunity, similar to how Coach Toole was going to give me, to walk on. And I ended up, which, it was a very blessing to have and to earn a scholarship my next years of college. So it was all worth the while for me, and it made a huge difference.
Now,
So
walk us through a day in the life of a Division I basketball player, because Youngstown is Division I, correct?
Absolutely. And we play some really great competition. A lot of guys who are playing now, even after, overseas in the league, different, all kinds of stuff. And it's a job as much as it was to go to school. And, the biggest thing, going to school 8 hours a day is teaching you, is that you have to be somewhere and be responsible for something and other people. So I was responsible for my teammates, and I received, punishments if I didn't hold them accountable. It's, wake up early, go to class, whatever you have to schedule, you have your schedule, which make it around practices. They focus, go to class, go to practice, work out. Usually you'll have either a workout either before or after. You find sometime in the day before or after with the team, they'll have it. And sometimes, when you'll have 2 a days where they'll go workout, practice, and film. So you go from class, practice, workout, film, back, and then probably time you get back, it's like 7, 8, you start to get something to eat. Sometimes you have a team meal, and after the team meal, then you find time to make yourself a college social life if you don't have any homework. And you kind of get into such a routine, as you compromise. You can only do so much. You got sleep, studies, sports, exercise, all that you need to keep in the one, and staying on track. So it's a full job, and it's not. So it's why a lot of great players are stuck into either JUCO or don't get the quite. They may be a phenomenal recreational player, or a different league player, but they didn't get to college because they didn't have that student athlete mentality. It's a whole difference, and it teaches you. That's why I say that basketball was so important, because it taught me how to do multiple things and be, a better version of myself.
So as you're going through, because there was some success that was had with your Youngstown career in those 3 years. You, like you said, you walk on, and then the next 2 years you earn a scholarship. As that last season, now, if I'm right, is that last season for you 2017?
Yes, I believe that would be it. 2017.
So we're at 2017. The basketball season ends. So you had spoken earlier about how when basketball ended, the mental health really kind of, what was being pushed back by having your constant stimulus of basketball and whatnot, it was done. At what point did you know it was done?
Yeah.
And when do those mental health problems, issues start kind of creeping in? And how did you deal with them?
So it was, as college was, I started seeing the end of college, and I started, it's a big time to not just go and have fun, but to find what you want to do and who you want to be the next years of your life. So as I started getting deeper into it and more into my studies, I really found comfort in learning certain things. Like I wasn't a great student all the time, and I may have not, paid attention all the time, didn't do every test great, but I really got into what I got into. Like the things I liked, college and school had all taught me how to learn and find the information I really needed. And that was a big help in the focus to getting me through the end of college. As my basketball career was dwindling, I was using that as a kind of a crush to take me through my end of my college. So those two are coming to a simultaneous end. I was in the deciding of go to school after, but it would, $150,000 to get my doctorates in physical therapy, which was what I was looking for.
Yeah.
However, that's tough. And my father's health had taken a really tough turn. And he started declining pretty rapidly. He had a heart transplant. He had, and that happened about my junior year of college, junior year of college. He had a heart transplant. And then by my senior year of college, he had to have a kidney transplant. So he was, my mom had been taking care of him like a saint for the last couple of years, where he couldn't walk. He was on oxygen 100% of the time. A lot of his life stuff was limited. He still would, be able to get around on his chair a little bit, which was a huge help and donation from some of the Kentucky guys. But it was a huge struggle. So in all that, I was just trying to get back and spend as much time with him. So I didn't, I wanted to look and play overseas, get a chance to play in some type of league. But I was, I wanted to get the time with him. And I really, in all that whole circle coming back, it was 11 hours from Murray, 4 hours from Maryland, hour and a half from Youngstown. And then finally I was like, I came to a deal of, I was going to move back in the idea, to basically, buy out and live in the house I had grown up in, with being able to take care of my father and give him the best I could, help him with a lot of the stuff that my mom has done the last couple of years, give them some break. Because between it was just her and my grandfather, who's 86 years old. And between the two of them, it was really tough. And I moved back after, and that kind of when I started getting really lost in what I should do. I got a job which was great at LA Fitness, and it wasn't what I wanted. It was a sales job. That's when I kind of really got into, I'm staring at a screen. I'm sitting here and my mind's running. I'm used to being stimulated and active. And I started seeing a doctor about it, get diagnosed with ADHD. I go to see a counselor, and, ADHD, ADD, I had some OCD, different things that were like, they were supplemented by basketball. I could use those different triggers to help me through the game. And then my body's too tired really to, give into the outside, the stimuli of the OCD or ADHD.
Yeah.
So that just abrupt stop of exercise and getting really into the job, which is really tough for a lot of people, especially athletes who were used to, playing. And then not everybody's going to the NBA or going overseas, and then trying to find out how to get into a life cycle that makes sense for you. And first couple of years, I didn't do what I loved. I was in sales. I worked at Enterprise, learned a lot of stuff about business. It was all worthwhile learning that I learned everything I didn't want to do for the next 20 years of my life.
It was a quick tutorial on, all right, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. Thanks for the opportunity. Appreciate you helping me pay the bills. I'm out.
Yeah, I appreciate everything I went through, and I knew it all was to make me better. And I really, value what I got to do. But at the end of it, I got such a blessing to get to go into something that's more close to my major. And I worked at Rel Academy with a kid James Barton, who had played at Bethel, and phenomenal player, played at Bethany, a 1,000-point scorer, and he opened his own academy, doing very well over there.
Quite familiar with Mr. Barton. He's we're still trying to get him on the show, but he watches every once in a while, drops me a comment, lets me know that. So I'm glad that look at that more connection of us there.
It's funny how small it all ends up, but all connected through basketball, man. I never would have known him. I never would have known. And he actually pulled me out of Enterprise. I was working full time at Enterprise, and with his help, he helped me get away from that lifestyle of job. And then we had a little separation where I opened my own training business, Tiger Form and Fitness, and that's what I've been running now. And I've been loving that, getting to do what my major was. And all this was, because that first start at LA Fitness, that was like, it opened up the triggers. It opened up all these things that I wasn't used to having and experiencing. And then I got the right medication to help me through it. I talked to a counselor. I saw doctors. I did everything necessary to get myself on track. And it's been a night and day difference. It really, truly makes a difference. And I would recommend anybody who can, who has problems like that, it's going to take some time, but like there's a dose that is good for you, and it will do the right things for your body. It's phenomenal. And that helped me experience the best version of my own success.
And if you are out there and you're watching this and you're a former athlete or not a former athlete, but you're dealing with some of these things where you feel kind of slow or you're feeling a little down and it's prolonged down, call somebody, call a friend, call a parent, call whoever you can, or, go and seek help. Everybody needs help. I've gotten help. Tiger's talking about getting help. I mean, this isn't, you're not less of a person because you went and got help or you talked to someone.
Absolutely.
We need that. We need more people to go and talk to people so that they can figure out why they feel the way they do and learn how, like you said, the coping mechanisms and the things that, like, sitting in front of a computer all day wasn't for you. You need to be physically doing stuff to keep you going. So
yeah. And it turns into depression and anxiety for a lot of people. And that's where like people are experiencing more versions of that, is because they get stuck in that, post-athlete, volleyball players, football players, people who just, you enjoy the college ride, but there's an end game, and knowing what is at the end of that road is a huge thing. That's why, college is for some people, maybe not for others. But it's definitely a route that you should take advantage of if you can, especially an athlete, especially when you get paid the way and they've given you such an opportunity, or others who have to earn it and making something of your life with it. I still, you and I on this show, that's all from the athletics.
Well, so let me ask you now so you started your own academy. How can people find you? What is a way they can get in contact with you, and what do you provide for young athletes?
Absolutely. I appreciate that, man. So it's Tiger Form and Fitness. I have an Instagram, Coach Tiger Warford. I have a personal account. I have a card. I haven't done too much online with a website yet, but Instagram, Snapchat, Tiger15. It's been a little tough for some people to find, but you just subscribe on there. And I go through basically agility and explosion training. I utilize a lot of Vertimax usage, which is a phenomenal platform. I think if you and I would have had used this, we would have been, tomahawk and windmill dunking in high school if we had the
one of us. Listen, man, you're giving me a lot of credit. I could rebound. I wasn't an offensive guy.
But you could jump, and I'll tell you this much. I know you could jump, and you were strong. And this Vertimax would have brought out a new part of your game that, you get access to being able to dunk off the dribble and getting your handles right. You go from being a guy who may have not been as comfortable in this game to being a guy who loves this game. And once you figure out that, it's a little bit easier. I changed my shot 2 or 3 times and became a good shooter once I graduated. So, like, I'm trying to give everything that I went through. I tell the kids, I walked on. I didn't get the scholarship that I had to fight for this stuff. Like, if you can't do at least this minimum, and can you be better than me? That's what I need. I need you to be every bit better than me, because it was a struggle and it's a fight, and I don't want them to have to go through that as much. So I try to get all the skills at an early age, from third, fourth, fifth, sixth grade, especially seventh and eighth grade. And then I work with a lot of high school guys, and I work with graduates too. Some guys that are looking to, play in leagues and outside basketball after college and stuff. I do work with individuals who are just looking to stay in shape, and sometimes it's a motivation just to keep on track. And so I work with all clients. I love working with people, and I just love exercise, anatomy, kinesiology, physics. It makes sense, and different ways that I can keep people into a routine of exercise and a healthy lifestyle. I'm not saying I'm going to change it night and day, or it's going to happen overnight, but to get a healthy habit or to maintain or see where you can benefit or include a little 5 or 10 minutes of exercise, do that once every day to change your life. And you were a man who I knew as I looked up to as a younger kid who could do 100 push-ups in a row. And I said, that is unbelievable. The amount of strength you need that person is way stronger than anybody who's benching, 225. You can get that. Okay. But do 100 push-ups in it. That's a lot of body strength and endurance in your muscle. And I'm trying to get the kids to be able to do that and to experience that muscle growth in their body at a young age, so that instead of having some of the knee problems like my brother had and having to get knee surgeries, they have protective muscles that support the bone growth. And so I look at a lot of different balance, coordination, explosion. Everything's different for what you need or what sport. I work with soccer players, volleyball players, tennis players, golfers. There's always different motions and a different way you can improve your sport specific skill. So I do my best to bring that out, and at an early age to focus on the muscles that you need for that. On top of, teaching you how well and how the importance of proper form. I don't know if you were taught, and I know I wasn't when I first went to high school, how to do a proper bench press, deadlift, or a squat. Things that I think are hugely, hugely important that, just help prevent little
in
problems.
In fact, you bring up the bench press. I can tell you that the trick that I was always taught, and it was because the guy, when I was at Chartiers Valley, he had become a physical trainer, and he always said that you want to take your pinkies, and there's a line on the bar that you want to grab, and you take your thumbs, and if it lines up the right way, you should be able to feel it sit on your hands without jerking back. That was the only thing he ever gave me. And I have chronic wrist problems because I never learned how to properly bench. So I don't think this is a way that you should be testing yourself for bench press.
No. So, and that's the thing. And control the weight, at a young age, controlling how much weight they're exposed to, and getting them stronger in body weight and in control. So I focus a ton on different stuff for each individual, but everybody needs something different. So I'm not going to treat you the same way I would treat my sixth grader who, I'm not going to treat a guard the same way I treat a post, or a kid who wants to do this or that. I got to treat everybody a little bit differently, but I try to bring those out in controlled ways and strengthening their body that helps them continue to want to do it.
And I got to tell you, as we wrap up here, it's been, we've kept in touch via social media and messaging. This is the first time that we've probably seen each other in 10 years, maybe. The thing that stands out to me about you is that, like your dad, that positivity behind you, you can just feel that even when stuff's down, you got this positive outlook and this positive light. And that was the one thing Coach Reg had, man. We'd be getting our ass kicked in an AAU game, and he'd have a smile on his face. He wouldn't say words that had a smile on his face, but he'd have a smile on his face, and he'd find the good. Look, we played bad, but here's the good things we did. So, and what I wanted
a couple of games done,
well, I actually was just telling someone, there's a phrase that your dad had. Instead of being profane to us, he would say, when we weren't playing great, he would say, "You're playing like a wet bag of kittens." And if you don't know what that means, go ask someone, because I'm not going to explain that to you. And I don't think anybody, me, you, Jordan, Fitz, I don't think anybody was sitting there going, I wonder what he's calling us right there. Make sure that you tell your mom and your grandfather and your brother that I said hello. I want to say thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you for taking the time to be with us. For those of you at home, you can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon, Google, basically everywhere you find podcasts. Just type in DingoTalk. And then on social media, you can find us on TikTok, YouTube, or TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram. Instagram, it's dingo_talk. If you don't type that in, you're going to find Wild Dogs. It's a great page if you're into wild dogs from Australia. That's not me, though. That Tiger won't be there. We're here every Thursday at 10 a.m. I am Carlo Guadagnino, Tiger Warford, my guest this week on Dingo Talk, and we will catch you next week, chuckleheads.
You wanna know by now. You wanna know by now. You wanna know by now.